It happened earlier this year. I still don't really know why I agreed to go. Maybe I just didn't want to be the boring one that night. My friend Ethan had been invited to a house party on the edge of town. We were both freshmen in high school, and even though I wasn't actually invited, he told me he could get me in. Against my better judgment, I said yes. We got there late, sometime around 11. The place was out in a quiet neighborhood, music echoing from the backyard. Before we went in, Ethan told me to leave my phone in the car. He said something about not wanting it to get stolen or lost. I didn't think much of it. Big mistake. We walked around to the back where the party was happening. It was chaos, groups of people laughing too loudly, others drinking or smoking in clusters near the fence. I barely knew anyone, but Ethan disappeared fast, already blending in with the crowd. A few hours passed and the drinks caught up to me. My head felt heavy, my vision blurred. I leaned against the side of the house just to stay upright. When I glanced at my watch, it was around 1 a.m. I figured it was time to go. I started looking for Ethan, calling his name, checking around the yard, but he was gone. Nobody seemed to know where he went. That's when I reached for my pocket and remembered my phone was still in his car. Perfect. I considered asking someone else for a ride, but I didn't know a single person there well enough. My house was only a couple of miles away, so I decided to just walk. The air was cold, sharp, typical for late fall. My head was spinning, but the idea of walking felt safer than staying there alone. After about 15 minutes, I reached the main road. The streetlights were few and far between, and the sound of my own footsteps was the only thing I could hear. Cars passed occasionally, their headlights sweeping across me before fading back into the dark. At some point, I got desperate. I stuck out my thumb, hoping someone would stop. Most drivers didn't even slow down. A few just sped past without a glance. It must have been around 1:30 a.m. when a gray pickup finally pulled over. The window rolled down, and an older man, maybe late 50s, beard, heavy eyes, leaned out and asked if I needed a ride. I said yes and climbed in, thanking him. He smiled faintly and started driving. At first, he was polite, asked if I'd been at a party, said I looked tired. I was too out of it to answer properly, just mumbled a few words. But as we got closer to my neighborhood, I noticed something off. His hands were tight on the steering wheel and his eyes didn't leave the road. Then we passed my street. I pointed it out, but he didn't slow down. That was my turn, I said. He didn't answer right away. Then, without looking at me, he said quietly, "You know, hitchhiking drunk isn't smart. Someone could take advantage of you." The way he said it made my stomach twist. Then his hand moved, slowly, toward my leg. I froze, my voice caught in my throat. Before I could say anything, red and blue lights flashed behind us. A siren wailed. The man cursed under his breath and slammed the brakes. The doors unlocked with a click, and I didn't hesitate. I threw the door open and stumbled out onto the pavement. The police car pulled up behind us, and one of the officers ran over, asking what was going on. I told him everything, shaking, trying to keep my words straight. Turns out they were looking for a man in a gray truck who just robbed a convenience store a few miles away. They didn't say if it was him for sure, but the description matched. The officer offered to take me home. I sat in the back of the patrol car, watching the flashing lights fade behind me as we drove off. That night taught me a hard lesson, one I won't forget. It's not always the party you should be afraid of. Sometimes, and it's the ride home. It was a cold autumn night sometime around 2017. I had just finished a late shift at the roadside diner I worked at, Harper's Diner out by Route 9. It had been a quiet night, and somehow I still had too much energy. I figured I'd have to take something to help me sleep once I got home. The drive back was the same route I always took, on a winding road through the woods. During the day it's beautiful, but at night it turns pitch black. No streetlights, just miles of trees and silence, with the occasional small parking lot or family-owned shop sitting under a single flickering lamp. As I passed one of those lots, outside a little bakery that was long closed, I saw someone. A woman standing under the light post, completely drenched from the rain. She had her arm raised, waving me down. I slowed my car. She looked older, maybe mid-50s, tall and thin, her soaked clothes clinging to her frame. I rolled my window down just enough and called out, "Do you need a ride?" She nodded eagerly and hurried over, thanking me over and over as she got in. She said she just needed to get into town, only a few miles up the road. Her voice was kind, but something about her smile made me uneasy. Up close, I noticed she was missing a few teeth, and her wet hair was plastered flat against her face. She didn't smell like someone homeless, but the rain had probably washed away any scent. Still, she seemed harmless, so I told myself I was doing a good thing. We drove mostly in silence until we reached a small intersection with a gas station. I figured I'd stop and fill up. I asked if she wanted anything from inside, coffee, water, anything. She smiled and said, "No thanks, sweetheart." And when I came back out, maybe 2 minutes later, she was gone. I looked around the lot. Nothing. The rain was coming down harder, and I just assumed she'd run off. Part of me felt guilty for leaving her, but another part was relieved. I filled the tank and headed home. My apartment was on the first floor of a small two-family house. An older couple lived upstairs. I got inside, kicked off my wet shoes, and set the drinks on the counter. Even after taking melatonin, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling back to that woman. At one point, I heard faint noises outside my room, small creaks, a floorboard maybe, but I told myself it was just the tenants upstairs. Eventually, I drifted off. When I woke up, it was still dark. That never happens. Melatonin usually knocks me out completely. I sat up, thirsty, and reached for my water. That's when I saw it. Someone was crouched in the corner of my room behind the dresser. At first, I thought I was dreaming. I rubbed my eyes, shook my head, even slapped myself. Then the figure stood and walked slowly out of the room. I froze. My mind couldn't process what I was seeing. No sound followed, no footsteps, no door, just silence. I grabbed my phone and called my dad. He sounded half asleep and told me it was probably a night terror, that I should go back to bed. Still, I turned on all the lights and checked the apartment. Nothing, nobody there. I almost convinced myself I imagined it. And the next morning, I got ready to go to the gym. When I reached the front door, it was already unlocked. My stomach dropped. I looked around again, checked every room, but nothing missing. But when I went out to my car and opened the back door to throw my gym bag inside, I froze. There were muddy, damp stains all over the floor. The blanket I kept in the back seat, gone. That's when it hit me. The woman never ran off. She hid in my car. At some point during the night, she must have slipped inside my apartment. Maybe when I forgot to lock the door. I called my dad again, shaking, asking what to do. He said unless something was stolen, the police couldn't really do anything. Nothing was missing, just my blanket. I skipped the gym that day. In fact, I stayed inside for almost a week. Every sound made me jump. Every creak felt like her coming back. A month later, I broke the lease and moved out. I never took that road again. I was still in college when this happened. I went to a big party school in upstate New York. I wasn't in a sorority, but I still went to plenty of frat parties, and back then, I was in a pretty heavy drinking phase. Not something I'm proud of, but maybe it's better I got it out of my system early. One weekend, my friends Deanna and Kayla wanted to go to a Kappa Sigma party off campus, about 20 minutes away, and of course, I wasn't the type to say no to a party, unless I was completely dying from a hangover. Even then, I might have still gone. We were renting a small house off campus and just 4 of us. We weren't part of any sorority or sports team, just friends living together. That night, we pre-gamed hard, too hard. By the time we called the Uber, we were already halfway gone. And on the ride there, we kept drinking, which was, looking back, a recipe for disaster. When we finally arrived, I was barely hanging on. The house was crowded, loud, music shaking the walls. I remember flashes of things and the DJ in the living room, 2 beer pong tables in the kitchen, groups of guys standing out front. Someone told me later that I was playing beer pong with a random frat guy and talking to him for a while. But that's where my memory ends. The next thing I remember was waking up, not in a bed, not on a couch, but on the grass, by the side of a road. My head was pounding. It was pitch black except for a few streetlights way down the road. I was lying near some trees, my clothes were dirty, and I felt sick. I reached for my phone. Gone. My crossbody bag. Also gone. I had nothing on me. Just the clothes I was wearing. I got up, dizzy, trying to figure out where I was. There were no buildings, no sound, just woods on both sides. and that empty road stretching into the dark. I started walking toward the light posts. After a while, I leaned against one, trying to collect myself. There was no service, no sign of anyone, so I decided to wait. Maybe someone would drive by. It took at least 15 minutes before I finally saw headlights in the distance. I stepped into the road, waving my arms, hoping they'd see me. The car slowed down and pulled over. A man rolled down the window and asked if I was okay. I told him I was stranded without my phone and needed a ride home. He told me to get in, and I did. At first, he seemed fine. He was maybe mid-30s, thin goatee, big nose, not particularly friendly looking, but calm enough. He asked what happened, and like an idiot, I told him the truth, that I was drunk at a party and woke up on the side of the road. Looking back, I should have lied. I basically told a complete stranger that I was intoxicated, lost, and vulnerable. He asked why I didn't just call someone, and I said I'd lost my phone. That's when his expression changed. He gave me this side glance, almost judgmental, but also something else. I looked at him more closely then. There was something off about him. He entered my address into his GPS and quietly said under his breath, "Okay, here we go." We started driving. He said it would take about 20 minutes, which made sense since the party was 20 minutes from our place. But after 20 minutes, we were still on the same back road. No signs of town, no streetlights, just trees. I asked him how much farther. He didn't answer right away. Then, in this quiet, almost whispering tone, he said, "Not far." The way he said it didn't sound right. Something in his voice made my stomach drop. I noticed him glancing at me. Not quick looks, but long, deliberate stares, turning his whole head toward me, holding eye contact before looking back at the road. I started to panic. My instincts were screaming at me that something was wrong. I asked again if he had the right address. He said yes, and then said, "What color underwear are you wearing?" My heart dropped. I froze. Then he put his hand on my knee, slowly rubbing it. I moved it away and told him in a shaky voice, "Please, I just want to get home safe." He smiled slightly and said, "Why would I hurt you?" Then he pulled the car over onto the grass and put it in park. He started leaning toward me, maybe to grab me, I don't know. But I didn't wait to find out. I flung the door open and ran into the woods. He started yelling after me. "Where are you? I just want to lick your..." I covered my mouth, hiding behind the trees, trying not to breathe. I could hear him walking around outside the car, shouting. Then a car door slammed, and the sound of tires screeching off into the night. I stayed hidden a little longer before creeping back toward the road. He was gone. After a few minutes, I saw another car coming, slower this time. I waited until I was sure it was someone else before stepping out. It was an older man. I told him what happened. He didn't ask too many questions and just drove me straight home. By the time I got back, it was around 4 a.m. They had my phone and bag, said they were about to call the police if I didn't show up soon. No one knew how I ended up out there. No one saw me leave the party. Even the guy I was talking to swore he didn't walk me out. To this day, I still have no idea how I got from that frat house to the middle of nowhere. But I do know this: I never hitchhiked again. And I never drank like that again either.